everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs podcast. I'm Justin Bizzarro, I'm your host, and if you like what we're doing on this podcast, please show some love and share it with your friends and family, and tell the story of all the food entrepreneurs that are on here, food and beverage. And today I have with me my loving and awesome significant other and co-host, Deborah Michas.
Hello.
And today we'll be interviewing Lauren Janis of the Big Daddy Biscuit Company. How are you doing today, Lauren?
I'm wonderful, and how are you guys doing?
Great.
We're doing great. So this is unusual for us because we're actually taking a step forward, but in a different direction. But I want everyone to understand that dog food and cat food and any animal food of any sort goes through the same regulatory compliance and same in kitchens and things like that as human food. So this is a great episode. You're our first pet food, pet treat company that's on here, so you're number one pet food right now. We haven't had it, or even have any more lined up, so pretty exciting. But really the importance of it and why we were like, yes, we want them on, is really because there's so many similarities between the way pet food is being done now and the health and the nutrition and all that, and the regulatory compliance of all of it as what's being done in human food, for lack of a better term. So Lauren, how did you get into doing dog biscuits?
It's actually kind of, it's a very interesting story because after I had a career working for the airlines, I was doing human resources. I was laid off from my job, and unfortunately my father passed away right after that happened, and then I just didn't know what to do, and that was the economy was tanking at that time. It was 2008, 2009. So I was doing some odd jobs. I helped my mom move down to Atlanta, and I sat in the driveway with my 8-year-old niece and nephew, they're twins. And I asked them what I should do with my life. And they literally told me I should go and make dog biscuits. And I've never before, I've never cooked. It wasn't my thing. And I said, if I do this, what should I call it? And my dog, Big Daddy, who was rescued off the streets here in Atlanta, Georgia, they said Big Daddy Biscuits. So the next day I literally went out and bought a mixer, and I haven't looked back.
And so had you ever had you make dog biscuits on your own before? Was it something that you...
No. Nope. Sorry.
No, I'm just curious because it's unique. So tell me about that. So you're like, okay, I'm going to go start making dog biscuits. Is this the direction I'm going in? How did you figure out recipes? How did you figure out what worked? I mean, there's obvious, how did you find a kitchen? I mean, so there's all these steps that you now need to take to get this thing off the ground.
Yeah, it was crazy. So what I did is I started in my home. I've never baked before. I mean, I baked doing my normal stuff. You know, I love baking for the Jewish holidays. I love baking I usually have a once a month dinner for my friends, but I've never thought about making a product to sell. And so it was scary, but I didn't think twice about it. I just did it. And so like I said, I started in the house. I just did some research. I have a lot of friends in the pet industry that own pet stores, so I talked to them as well. And then I decided I was looking at what was going on in my community as well, and everyone's, farm to table this, farm to table that. So I coined ourselves as a farm to table dog biscuit, because I try to source as many ingredients from local farmers as I can. So if I know, just for me, knowing where my food comes, I want to know where my dog's food comes from as well, because there are so many issues coming out of China with, salmonella and people not using right foods. So, and Big Daddy was my big test dog. So, and he was very particular as well.
That's cool. I like the idea of farm to table, but maybe it should be farm to bowl.
I know, and actually that's our new thing where it's well, and then I don't know, because it's not the dog treats aren't going in the bowl, they're going in their mouth.
Point.
So it's like, right. So I'm like on the fence with that, but I totally know I know what you're saying.
Or how about farm to Fido?
Or farm to Fang.
Oh, see?
Yeah, we've got all sorts of ideas.
I know, you should be
I'm
careful.
sure you'll do.
We're both very creative. We'll come up with some crazy ideas if you allow us to. We'll get totally distracted on this podcast of coming up with names and mottos. So from there, I mean, so you mentioned bringing it from the farm and sourcing your ingredients. Do you actually go out and source the ingredients then yourself?
Well, I have built, when you were saying looking for kitchens and going, I'm going to go back for just a quick second. So I was really lucky when I started, knowing some people here in Atlanta, so I was able to use their spaces. So like High Road Craft Ice Cream, they had a space where their space was, there was an additional space, and they allowed me to use it to produce our product. As I said, I started in my house, but you can't do it's illegal. You can't do it on the basis. You can't do it on the legally make, like, you can have cottage licenses to make jellies and jams and certain things in your home. You can't do that for dog biscuits. So once I established myself there, and then I needed to grow, I have now it's called Prep Atlanta, and it's an incubator for small businesses. So there's caterers there. There's everyone. I'm the only dog biscuit person there, and I hope to be that same person there.
So, Lauren, explain to us a little bit how that works with the prep kitchen. Do you have to schedule time, and how do you come in? And then you have to bring in employees. So how often do you produce, and how much do you produce in that time frame?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. So when I very first started, my dearest friend moved back to Atlanta, and there was the two of us that were producing at High Road Craft Ice Cream in their space. And then as I grew and I went to prep, yes, I do have to schedule time there. I have to schedule, the way it works is you buy hours. So you can get anything from 30 hours up to 120. And then after that, then they make custom plans for you. And you have the space, and then you schedule your equipment that you need. And right now I have 4 employees in the kitchen baking biscuits. And it's pretty amazing when I stand back and look at everyone doing it. I never thought that I would be an employer and I'd be making, payroll checks. That's not who I was.
Right. Yeah, it's a big step for sure.
It's huge. And it's like my mom, she's inspector number 8.
Yeah.
She tells us so we dock all of our dog biscuits so that air holes go out of the dough. So if she tells us if something doesn't look right, which is amazing, to have her third or fourth eyes on it. But the kitchen, it's a great space for us. But yes, we have 4 employees, and yesterday we were in the kitchen. So we're in the kitchen 3 days a week and 7 hours a day when we're there. And so yesterday we used 200 pounds of flour.
Wow.
To produce biscuits. So that's a lot.
And so do you have to form each one, or do you have a mold, or how do you guys do that?
We literally hand press every single solitary biscuit.
Oh my God. Talk about some TLC and your dog biscuit.
Yes. So when people ask what my dog, it's like we hear so many times, my dog's really picky, my dog doesn't like it. I swear to you, they'll take it. And it is really, they're made with so much love that I can't stand it. I mean, and everyone is touched by a human hand. There's 4 processes when we're doing it, but everyone touches a biscuit.
Which is great. Cool. And so how many flavors do you have, or is it one standard flavor?
So we started off with one, which is our signature crunchy peanut butter biscuit. And now we make 4 flavors.
That actually sounds like it could be a cookie for humans, but go on.
Well, ironic that you said that, because we have had people eat our biscuits and say that they're edible, because everything that we use is human grade food. So there's nothing in it that you can't eat. You can if you go to the store and you turn the back of the packages, you can read every ingredient that we use. So our grain-free peanut butter is garbanzo flour, peanut butter, banana, and cinnamon, and that's it. It's 100% organic.
I mean, that's healthier than what some people eat.
Yeah,
it is. And that's a treat.
Right, it's a treat.
Right. And so you guys have to do nutritionals, correct, on your packaging the same as on human food?
Yes. So we have to do 4, we do our guaranteed analysis, which asks for 4 things, which is our, the protein, the fat, fiber, and moisture. So once we have those 4 elements, after we make it, we send it off to a testing facility, and they give us that information back and then we send it up to the Department of Ag. And then
real
we're licensed.
quickly, I mean, obviously dogs vary in size, but like what do they use as the standard measurement of calories a day for a dog and protein a day for a dog? Do they have a standard kind of like that you have to do your percentage of? Or
I don't know, and I haven't even thought of that, because the thing is with calories, I mean, well, the thing is someone's like, oh, my dog's fat. Well, you need to walk your dog.
Right. They need exercise.
Don't think it's just, right. It's like the treats are not the things that are going to get of course, if you eat a lot of anything, it's going to be too much.
Of course.
But you're in control of your, just like yourself and your own body, you're in control of what you put into your dog's mouth.
Right. So I had kind of interrupted you because I got off on a tangent there, but I was asking you about the flavors. So I wanted to hear the rest of them. I think we only got to the peanut butter crunch.
And then we have our grain-free peanut butter.
Uh-huh.
That's the one with the garbanzo. We have a turkey bacon. And then we have one that's called a dinner mint. And that's actually my favorite one, because what it does, it has activated charcoal, so it's going to absorb the toxins from the body. It's going to help with gassy moments. It's going to help with the breath, and it's going to help with your dog's belly.
Right.
They're popular dog biscuit.
So I want to ask you, so I know what it takes to develop a recipe for when we're doing it for a client or, coming up with a product in our own kitchens. But how does that process go when you're doing it for a dog? Do you have the dogs sample it, or do you guys actually sample it? How do you go through and say, yeah, this is the recipe?
I taste every biscuit, and at the time, Big Daddy was my sampler. Unfortunately, he has crossed, as I call it, the biscuit bridge.
Oh.
And so he is not the one anymore, unfortunately, but he's watching over us every day. And I have my friend's dogs test them for me, which is awesome.
Right.
And some dogs, dogs don't like everything. People say but dogs are like, my favorite thing to say is dogs are like people. We don't like everyone and everything.
Right.
And that's just the truth. So I'll give it to several different dogs to see what their reaction is, if they like it. We had a girl that did one of my favorite girls, Amelia, in my neighborhood, did a Girl Scout presentation, and she did a testing of which one, if the dogs like the turkey bacon better or the dinner mints better, and which ones they preferred. So that's quite
fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. So in that scenario, was she putting like the two different biscuits down on the floor and seeing which one they went to first?
Yep.
Oh, that's fun.
And then, yeah, it was awesome. It was wonderful to see. And so it was ingenious that she did that.
Right.
But of course they like both of them, but you never know what's going to go, what the dog's going to go for first.
Right.
And some dogs don't like them at all. You
right.
know, and if I'm at a farmer's market with you, your dog is may not eat it right then, because there's so many elements around.
Right.
The sounds, the stress, the everything. So if your dog doesn't eat it, take it home. I promise you they'll eat it.
Right. And that's a good point. I never really thought about that, but, dogs are a little bit overwhelmed when you get into those settings, not to mention, there's typically grills going and all sorts of, scents and aromas for them
music.
Right. And probably kids petting them all the time. It's probably a little overwhelming for dogs at some of those venues.
It is. And I see them. So that's one thing, we started doing our farmers market, and that's one thing that I have always said. Everyone asks, and people have asked, will you stop doing farmers markets? And I'm like, no, because I will never forget where I came from. And I started at the Marietta Square Farmers Market, and I'm starting my 10th year this year, this spring.
That's cool.
It. And it's a year-round market. And it's amazing. But I help with people like, when they're going by, like when dogs are meeting and dogs are greeting. So I'm helping to educate people on dog behavior as well, as much as I know.
Right.
At the same time, but it is I've learned so much environment.
And I'm just imagining, because like when I go to farmers markets, I would go looking for specific ones. It kind of becomes like your shopping list. Who's going to be there. And so I am imagining after 10 years, it's probably a little bit like a social thing for you as well on the weekends to have people come out. And if you're going to the same one, that seems really cool. Like you probably now know a bunch of your clients and everything.
It is. I might have the crappiest day, week, whatever.
Right.
But when I wake up on a Saturday morning at 5:30 and I pack my car up I know I'm going to be happy because yes, I'm the dogs, number one, the people, they're my family.
Right.
They really care about me. I genuinely care about them. Some of them have become employees at farmers markets because, in my opinion, that's your best employee, someone that believes in what you're doing.
Right.
And I've seen, and I've been able to celebrate, births of family, births of babies and dogs passing, the sadness and everything. So it's one huge family, and I'm honored to be there. And it's my happy place.
I bet. It sounds like a really fun experience. I mean, I know how I feel when I get to see people that I know at those events. And so I'm sure being on your side, that's really great too. And so, you're giving us a little insight as to sales and how you do that. So you're saying you started with farmers market and you'll never not do them. But what other ways do you get your product out to your clients?
Well, we're part of CSA's, Community Shared Agriculture. So the Moore Farm and Friends is one of our biggest clients. We've been with them for 8 years, and they have boxes and that they put together for people to choose from. They can pick and choose their vegetables, and then they can do add-ons, and our dog biscuits are one of their add-ons. So that's one of them. Local bodegas, we have them here. We're in Whole Foods in the Southeast region, which is great. And we just did the Mart in Atlanta, Georgia, and we have now added 50 more stores throughout the United States by doing that. So it's kind of not even going the pet route. I'm in a whole bunch of pet stores here in Atlanta.
Right.
Which is amazing, and my community loves what I'm doing. But I've shied away from the pet community, the pet stores, because I'm one small thing in a big ocean, as I call it. It's just there are a lot of choices. So what we've done is we've got
a couple dogs here too. In honor of this
episode,
episode, we have our dog, Deborah's and I's dog, Brutus, is running around, and then Deborah's nephew dog, I guess he would be, Roscoe, are in the studio with us in honor of the dog biscuit episode. So we figured it'd be kind of fun to have them in the background as we did this in honor of your episode. So.
I love it. Well, too bad they don't have biscuits, which we'll get them up to you soon.
Thank you.
Great.
But you were saying, so your model is to stay away from the pet stores and focus more on like the Whole Foods, grocery stores. And I actually love that idea because the consumer that really cares about themselves is the one that usually really cares about their dogs. And Deborah and I, quite a bit, we try to keep the best type of biscuits and food for Brutus in our home. Anything
he's a little spoiled.
Yes, he's a little spoiled. I give him an egg with his breakfast every morning, and he gets a little bit of milk with dinner every night. And but we give him all the good food, the Blue Buffalo food, and maybe there's better food. I'm sure you've been in the business long enough. You can recommend us the best type of food and stuff like that. So I'm interested in that for sure. But I definitely spoil him. He gets all soy free, as healthy as I can be. Treats. Actually, they come through BarkBox. There's a plug there. But, so I'm interested in definitely trying your treats and trying them for him, because anything that I can do to extend his life, because it will crush me the day he passes away across the Doggy Biscuit Bridge, as you referred to. And, the good thing is that, you get that time with them. It's just hard when you lose them because they're such unconditional friends and they give you such unconditional love.
Oh, yeah, it's brutal because, he was rescued off the streets of Atlanta. His head was bigger than his body. His ribs were sticking out. And he found me the time after my pop passed that filled that void. He was just he was an American Bulldog, and he was really calm, and we called him the stoner dog because he just laid around, but you knew he was there. You go to my mom's house, and he would know when she's cooking, and he would lay right next to her, and she would secretly feed him veggies when she's cooking.
Oh,
he was just the best. He was a very unique, amazing dog, just like we all know that our dogs are. And I wouldn't have this business if it wasn't for him. And it'll be a year on April 11th that he passed. And it's been the best year because now he's like watching over going, tell everyone what I'm doing.
Right.
He's watching over me right now, and he's very proud. So it's killer. And so what we did is started branding a dog biscuit with his name in it, Big Daddy Biscuits. And so
awesome.
a lot of companies now, we can brand dog biscuits. So several people here in Atlanta do it. When we were at the Mart, so that was our biggest selling item there, is people wanted branded dog bones.
Well, and I love this, and I love that he lives on forever in the name of your company. And I'm going to tell the audience a quick tad bit story, because I think it's so important. We often talk about human beings on this podcast, or, and a lot of people, including myself, talk about how, we believe God speaks through other people, but God also speaks through our animals and the way they change our lives and the way they come into our life. And for me, in 2013, I had a rupture in my lower intestine that was basically poisoning my body, and I was working out a lot then, so I thought I pulled a muscle in my stomach. I didn't really realize what was going on. And Brutus was pretty young then, but he would not leave me alone for days. And by the third day, he would literally, every time I'd lay down in pain, he would get on my stomach and scratch his paws on it like he was digging, and keep sniffing and would not leave me alone, and start moaning. And it's like he knew something was wrong. And so I rushed to the hospital, and they're like, "You're being poisoned from the inside. This is a serious matter. You could be dead in the next 24 to 48 hours if this kept going." So they really do come into our lives and change our lives. And for me, saved my life, I believe, truly. And so to have that bond with them, it's amazing. Tangent on
when my mom
life.
had breast. Yeah, well, no, I understand, because when my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and when she came home, Big Daddy laid next to her bed for 3 days and didn't move.
It's like they know we need it. They know better than we do as humans, and they just are so loyal and dedicated and loving.
I think it's that they operate off of energy versus words. A lot of times we all get caught up in words of what everyone says, but really the actions are everything, and the energy is everything, and they can sense that. They know. And it's kind of cool.
They do. It's amazing. Look, my mom didn't want the dog in the house. She saw him, and my dad, before he passed, he only met him once. But Big Daddy was all over him. And he's a big dog. American Bulldogs are pit bulls, just it's that same stature, but he's a little taller. My mom was fearful of him.
Right.
But it's how society, it's what society's made, and everyone talking the bad words that people were saying about these amazing dogs. And I changed her mind, and she, to this day, still, like when I mention him, she tears up, and she's like, "I miss him so much." And for her not to want him in the house,
right,
to him watching, she was recovering to when he died. I was so glad that we were able to change her mind about him and the breed. That's very important to us as well.
Yeah, a lot of people get scared and nervous and whatnot of dogs, and, for her to have that transformation. And really, he did that, right? Like, he earned her trust.
Yep.
That's super cool.
Well, and that's the thing about animals. They get it. It's you earn their trust, and they earn your trust. And there's this relationship that builds off of it over time, and it's the right way to do it. They don't jump into anything. We don't jump into anything with them. We earn it with each other, and I think that's such a valuable lesson, just as entrepreneurs, since we're on an entrepreneur podcast, is that trust is something that's earned in both directions.
Yes.
And it takes time, and it takes actions to get there, not just words. So I think that's so important. And the second thing I want to just talk about is the American pit bull type thing. And I believe that's what you said Big Daddy was a pit bull. Is that correct?
Well, he was an American Bulldog.
Oh, American Bulldog. Okay. I misunderstood then. But I just, so many people see dogs as aggressive or they have this image. But when they're loved and trusted in the way that people want to be loved, and you're vulnerable with them, they are the greatest animals. And I truly feel that they're a reflection of their owners. And, you love them, and they mirror back the same love to you. So, it's a pretty incredible thing. So
it is, and thank God I found. My friend found him and brought him to me, because this would have never happened.
So do you do this full time? Cool. So do you do this full time now? Is this? This is it. This is your job.
I've been doing it full time since my niece and nephew said to me, "You should make dog biscuits."
So 8 years.
I literally never looked. 8, 9, yeah, 8 years.
That's cool. You know what I also love is I feel like in today's world, it's a lot about, obviously the product matters and that's first and foremost, but everyone's story. I think in today's world, people are wanting to connect more and more. I mean, as much as there's social media and whatnot and people get distracted from the human interaction, I think that when you can bring your own personal story to the forefront, people are really like, they glob onto that. They want to be like, they want to know you. They want to know the products they have. And so the fact that you have this great story as to how you started your company and that it's, your dog was really your inspiration and whatnot. I think people love that. And I think that that goes a long way in, pushing your brand forward and getting it out there to everyone. So let's take 1 second really fast. Do you want to tell the audience where all they can find your products, if they can get them online, whatnot, how they can follow you, know more about your brand?
There's so many places. It's crazy. I wish I knew because we've really, so yeah, you can get us online at BigDaddyBiscuits.com. And we always send special treats, extra treats to new customers, and you get 15% off if you put in Big Daddy when you're checking out. But you can get them. That's the best place if you don't live in the state. Unfortunately, we haven't updated our website with all the wonderful new stores, but Baltimore, Maryland, we're going to Catalina Island, Barnsley Gardens, which is here in Atlanta, Prince Michelle, which is in Leon, Virginia. It's a vineyard, which is amazing. My Big Finds in Gaithersburg, Maryland. So they're all little cute, intricate stores, which I love that. That is like, this is all heaven to me where they're going.
Right.
Because so many people will enjoy these biscuits, and they'll appreciate them more than getting it in a big box pet store.
Right. So, Lauren, you're wearing so many different hats. You're literally forming each biscuit with your other employees. And, so how are you making time to, get to all of these different stores in different states even, and, get your product out there, running farmers markets on the weekend, plus handling payroll and all of the behind the scenes stuff that people kind of forget about when they go buy their dog biscuits? How do you manage your time?
It's a good question. I don't always know. It's kind of hard. I love making notes. When I was working in corporate life, I had my pad of paper and I wrote everything down. My brain's gotten a lot better now, which is great, but it's still difficult. But I just know. Unfortunately, every day is kind of the same in a weird way because we bake 3 days a week on those Mondays and Fridays. Every shipment goes out every Friday that you place an order during the week. We try to get it out the next day, but if it's a big order, we get it out. Our goal is on Friday. So on Monday, when you get to your post office, when the postman comes, they're going to bring that big box of treats to you. I just do it. Right. I don't know how I do it. I really don't. My mom also wonders how my brain, because I'm so ADD and I'm also dyslexic, she wonders how I do this. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you.
I actually think people who are a little bit ADD have sometimes an advantage because you're able to track on a couple different levels at one time. It's, as a kid, I think teachers and whatnot, people look at kids who have ADD as like being disruptive and whatnot because there's so much energy. But once I think you can hone in on that, it's really quite a masterful skill. I think it's a blessing in disguise. I know a lot of people worry about that for their children, but there's quite a few entrepreneurs, and I don't know if you're legitimately ADD, but I think that they definitely have that personality type if it's not, a actual diagnosis. But I think there's a benefit in that, in being able to go in several different directions. And so I want to ask you too. I
so agree with you because it does. I'm always the busier people get things done.
Agreed.
If you're not busy, you're not getting stuff done. So your brain's always it's always going. And, I'm very blessed. Right now I have someone that I went to elementary school. She's working in she's baking biscuits. I have a girl that was baking and she's come back. And I just, finding the right people as well to keep you on track.
right.
in the kitchen.
And and there's, several different people too, because I'm imagining, like, so do you bring people too with the farmer's market, or do you have people who help you go out to stores to get the biscuits into other retail venues? Or do you basically...
No, that's all me.
That's all you. And what about distribution? How do you get the product? Do you ship, or do you literally drive it everywhere?
Well, we do two things. Well, there's three things. One, you can pick it up at farmers markets if you're in that neighborhood.
Right.
Two, we ship. Three, we self-distribute. I find it better. I had, unfortunately, some experiences with some people that don't rotate properly and things not getting out the way they need to.
Right.
And I can't take that chance. So I know that I box it up, I ship it out, and it goes, our wonderful post office, U.S. Postal Service sends everything out. And if someone wants to send me their account number to send it out a different way, that's fine. Locally, if it's on my route, I will deliver. If not, we have a great program. There's a great app called Roadie that will come and pick up your stuff and will hand deliver it for you. And I take advantage of that as well. And I've also hired someone that used to do that and is like my personal delivery person, which is amazing.
Right. I mean, you have to get resourceful, right? When you're a smaller business, you have to find ways to do it. So, but I imagine at some point the goal is that you meet a volume threshold where you can, would you ever want to get rid of the production portion of it? Or would you ever want to, I've heard you say you've outsourced and hired people to help you with distribution a little bit. I mean, what would be the thing that at some point you're just like, this is too much, I need help with that? Where's your next needing help, your next growth?
Right. Well, it is going to be, just the one thing that I have always said is our biscuits don't look the same. We don't want to look like your typical big box, your big company that every dog biscuit looks exactly the same that's coming out.
Right.
So, and that we pride that, and that's that whole hand press. So I'm actually right now looking at a machine that can do different cuts so they all don't look the same. So it coins on what we're doing because it's hard. Your fingers hurt. Look, I got my hand caught in the mix. So it's been, I've been down on being able to help produce if I need to, but that's where the distribution, and I don't mind doing it. I have one of my neighbors actually comes over and helps me make sure everything's out perfectly, handwritten notes in every box.
Oh, that's cute.
A biscuit or something
right.
goes out. I don't trust distributors right now, and we can handle it. I mean, if it's going the way it is, I like that part of it because it's very personalized when it goes out to, these stores.
Yeah, no, I think that's cool. I mean, it's always an interesting thing. I mean, I got to a growth portion when I had a company years back, and I had to get to a point where I was like, do I do more? Because I was like, what does more actually mean? And so, but I'm hearing you. I understand, like, you're at a place where your quality of life, your involvement in each part of it, because you actually have enjoyment in each part of it, so you have to kind of tread lightly and kind of take each step a little bit methodically about how big, how fast, and I think that's cool.
Right. But my whole thing since I started this business, there's the turtle and the hare, and I don't want to be the hare. I want to be the turtle. Slow and steady will always win.
Right.
And it seems to be, working for us. And we grow every day. We grow but I'm finding the good people to put in place that I can back away from doing it.
Right.
So, which is a wonderful thing, but I'm still there, but my hands are always going to touch everything, just like any small business or, anyone in a business, they want to know.
Right. And I think it's really interesting too, because, we ask a lot on this podcast, we ask people, if you could go back and the younger you, what would you tell yourself? And like a large percentage of the people would say, I would slow down. Because a lot of mistakes get made when you try and grow too big, too fast, and you miss stuff or whatnot. And so it's kind of interesting to hear you say, as someone who's been doing this for quite a while, that you're taking your time. You want to be the turtle. You want to take your time and get there when you get there. I think that's cool.
Right.
So with that being said, younger you, what advice would you give yourself?
Have faith. and to just, I don't even, it's really hard. Just, because I was I'm outgoing now. I mean, people, know that of who I am. I'm a very vivacious person. I get excited over a lot of things. I would just say, have faith and don't doubt. I wouldn't doubt myself so much, because not everyone's path is going in the direction. When I was a kid, it was go to school, go to college, get a 9-to-5 job, do this.
Right.
Have faith in being different. It's okay. And I think that just being secure in who I am more so. And you're freaking amazing, because I'm an amazing person.
Yes, you are.
And I didn't think so growing up, and I'm pretty darn cool with what I've done. I'm very proud of myself.
And you should be. I mean, it's a big accomplishment. I mean, I think a lot of people, it's easy to get down on yourself. And I think that, with as far as you've come in your company, you've made tons of growth, right? And you've had to probably overcome things, sometimes even on a daily basis, weekly basis, in terms of figuring out how to get stuff done or timelines or whatnot. And so, really to get there. And I love that. I love that advice to really believe in yourself. And I truly believe that, our differences are what make us ourselves. It's our, when kids are younger, they all want to be alike and they want to be the same and they want to do what the other cool kids are doing and whatnot. And really that the part that you're doing differently is the part that makes you you and makes you lovable. And so I think that's great advice. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was hard. It took a while to figure that out, what your self-worth is. But I'm very lucky and blessed. I have an amazing mother who has supported this venture from day one. She has her little doubts, but I'm like, no, when something happens, when it happens, Mom, throw it in the universe, when. And I love being able to say, I told you so to her.
So do you come from a family of entrepreneurs, or are you the first one?
I'm not. My grandfather owned a paint store. And he passed when my mom was 12, so that stopped then. But my mom said that I'm exactly like him. I've never met a stranger, and I'm always, extending and trying to build my community and build my network more. But I'm the first one to start. I mean, I have a dermatologist in the family and a lawyer, but it's not building, a product.
Right.
So that they're different, whatever. So they're entrepreneurs in their own ways because they have their own businesses, but not building a business, not making a product and doing this. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing at all.
Right. And I think that's most people too. I mean, I don't care what business plan you write. It ends up being very different than what you plan. And, so a lot of times I think people come into being an entrepreneur because that's what they saw as kids and stuff. But no matter who you are or what you've seen, the whole deal is you have to go in with the tenacity of like, I'm not failing. I'm going to just keep going. Right. And if something doesn't work, I'm just going to turn a little bit different direction and figure out how to make that go. And so, yeah. But it's a leap of faith. I mean, so at what point did you take your foot off of first base, being some other job, paying your bills and stuff, to turn and be like, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it full time? Or did you kind of do two things at once?
I didn't have a choice. I was laid off from my job, and then the economy was the way it was, and temp jobs weren't around, and I wasn't happy. And I helped my mom move her life from Maryland to Atlanta.
Right.
So it gave me a chance to figure out what was going on. It was, my big moment.
Right.
Sit on the pot or, whatever. So my niece and my nephew, and I didn't look back. I didn't take a second job. I mean, I did odd jobs. I was working, temp jobs when I was getting this business off, but I've been full blown doing this ever since I started. Haven't thought about anything else. Yeah. And I never thought I'll do. Yeah, this is it. This is all I want to do.
Oh, and I wanted to a little bit rewind 1 second and just touch upon something you said so everyone in the audience hears it, is that something that happens with entrepreneurs. I think to Deborah's point, a lot of us grow up, and not all of us, and I think inside we always are a little bit different than everyone else as entrepreneurs, that at least when we end up entrepreneurs, but we don't want to be different growing up, so we try to fit in with everyone else. And then you have people that go out in the world and they do what everyone else does, which is get your office job, work for a big company, make sure you have a secure paycheck, go to work at 9 a.m., get done at 5 p.m., and then forget about your job. But then there's the entrepreneur that just naturally is different, wants to think outside the box, doesn't want to work for someone else, has to pivot at some point in their life where they end up being an entrepreneur, like in your case. And then you end up different, and because you end up different and expressing yourself for who you are, you build this product that's representative of you and what you believe in. And that's truly the case here with you, Lauren. I mean, I can tell by your personality that the product reflects who you are. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's natural, and it's caring, and it's kind, and it's really to help out, dogs specifically, but it's also to help out dog owners. And it's an indirect effect. And so what you're doing, I think, is such a beautiful thing as an entrepreneur. And I'm sliding the scale a little bit as I talk, but it's a beautiful thing, when entrepreneurs take something, truly believe in it, be vulnerable enough and authentic enough to put themselves into a product and show themselves through it, and then use it to help people. I mean, profit's obviously important in revenue when you're running a business, but it's also the ability to help people in doing it. So I really love that part of your story for sure. But my question is this. So over the last 8 years, you've had to have like a horror story or one thing that's happened where you've been, oh my God, what am I doing? And how do I really want to keep doing this? Or, something like that has happened to you that you're like, this is a crazy moment and I can't believe I'm doing this right now. Good or bad?
There's so many little things. It's insane. So I was using this one kitchen, and it was a commercial kitchen in someone's house, and he unfortunately decided not to pay his mortgage, and so the house is being taken from him, but he didn't tell anyone. So, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to create my business? How am I going to do all the demand? Well, I figured it out. I somehow figured it out. I found Prep Atlanta, which was amazing. Machinery breaks. Getting someone to come over to fix it in time to get orders out. But when it comes to the business, I haven't said, nothing said stop. Nothing was too big for me to stop what I was doing, which is interesting.
That is, did you ever have wavering moments where you're like having trouble paying all the bills or paying employees, or did you? Yeah. So,
every day.
Right. And I mean, I think that's the interesting part, but I think that right there, Lauren, is really key is, while you also had all of those moments that lots of people have, it was never enough to make you stop. You still were believing in yourself. And I think that right there is the entrepreneurial spirit.
Right. And the other thing is that when I was in school, I didn't realize I had, dyslexia and I was ADD and all this, because back in the 80s, it wasn't on the forefront. Right. And so I didn't find the true me until this all happened. So I started a nonprofit. It's called Oktoberfest and EAV, and it's about responsible pet ownership. And so what we do is we raise funds for local rescues here in Atlanta, and we just give them all the money that we raise in this one full swoop event that we do once a year. I'm able to help people start their business, ask questions, marketing ideas. I mean, I help run our social media for our farmers market page, for our farmers market. But it's like I found skills in me that I didn't know that I had back then. That wasn't honed on when we were in school, because it was go to school, get a job, do this. The creativity of oneself was not pushed when we were younger.
Right.
And I have blossomed in that respect since then. So I found more about me and how I can be a better entrepreneur for myself and other things too. God forbid if this biscuit thing fails tomorrow. 222, it's not going to happen. But if it does, I have a direction. I have ideas that are already in the works of other things I can do and will do and continue to do. Because I found me.
You just said 222. Is that Is that a Greek thing for tusu?
Oh.
Do you know what I'm talking
about?
Huh?
It's like you don't put bad things into the world.
Yeah, it's so funny. My grandmother used to say that, but I'm Greek, and it was like tusu. It's like, so you don't get the evil eye. And I'm like, did you just do what my grandmother used to do? That's hysterical.
Bringing it back. Right.
That's great. I love it.
But it's having faith, you know, and I'm like, I'll bring it back to my mom. If I didn't have her to be a cheerleader, and also I have a core group of friends that are like, you can't give up. You're not going to give up. You've made it. Who support me. My community, my neighborhood supports me so much. I mean, I live in East Atlanta, and we're just a tight knit group of people that support each other's businesses. And if you need something, they're there to pick you up.
That's so great.
I live a great life when you look at, when you peel layers off.
It's true. It is a good life.
So, I mean, is there anything in your business that you're like, I dislike doing this? Because everyone has something they wish they didn't have to do, but all the things you like. But I mean, you're very well-rounded, and you seem to attack things head on. So I'm curious, is there anything you don't like doing?
Oh, there's a lot I don't like doing. I don't like, sometimes I don't like making biscuits every day. My fingers hurt, since we hand press them. I don't like waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But my follow-up sometimes isn't the best, and I have a hard time at, remembering all those emails that I have to get back to, making the list. So there's nothing that I don't like. I just don't like that I don't have the time to do it, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. I really relate to, you were saying you take notes all the time. And I'm like the perpetual list maker. And so it's kind of funny because I have a notebook and I write in the notebook and I add stuff so I don't forget it. And it's amazing though, the list grows faster than I can check them off. And so sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, sometimes can get overwhelming. But yeah, I get it.
I forget about my list.
I know. The multiple lists, the multiple notebooks. Yeah, I have that going on too.
Right. So there's a lot that sometimes I wish that I can just step away from the kitchen completely, which soon, but I never want to stop because I want to see what's going. I got to make sure what's going on.
Yeah.
But having that wonderful faith of people that are in, that you have trust and you have faith in,
right,
that want the best for your product and know what you want, is very important. And slowly I'm able to back away so I can be more focused on things that I don't like as much as me. Those follow-up phone calls sometimes, and hey, how'd your order? Did anything break? Do you need anything else? What can I do for you? That is where, I fail at times. Doing.
I think it's huge, though, for you to be the person actually calling the accounts and putting personal notes in. I mean, I think that is huge. I mean, as someone who would be on the receiving end of that, that feels good, right? To have the owner of the company, the person who started the whole thing, really being your contact. I mean, that's amazing. And so, I can see how you get to a point where you have to pick and choose. There's only so many hours in a day. And I can see how if you had to go be in the kitchen for X number of hours every single week, it really kind of pulls you from a million other things that your personal touch really, really matters on, So it's hard. It's a tug of war. It's trying to figure out how best to use your time and, what are the things you can't.
I just don't waste time by writing lists.
He just jumps in. He attacks things with,
when I'm out of time, I'm like, I have no time to even write the list. I'm just going right at it.
It's good.
Although I do take crazy amount of notes.
Right. Well, see, but I don't ever go back and look all the time. And like when I'm at a show, I'm super uber organized, and that keeps me going. It's like I want to how I keep that sustained, and how much would I have after all these years of taking notes, going back to what you did. It's quite interesting to see where that started and how your style is from taking notes and taking lists from when you first start until now. I think that's very interesting.
I know, and that's actually happened to me with this podcast. At first, I sort of was like, okay, like people will contact me, and I'll contact people and get them on the list. Well, 2 months, actually, we'll be going on the 9th week since we launched this podcast, and we have over 100 people signed up for episodes, and I've had to do Excel sheets, and I've had to change the way I send out post recordings, and I've had to, the way I talk to people, and the prep questions have changed, but there's this weird step of organization and calendar reminders that I didn't even begin to imagine I was going to have to do when I started this thing. I was like, oh, it won't take me that much time. We'll just sign them up and go forward. But then when you actually start doing any business, and it's really a reminder of me of being an entrepreneur and all the other ways I've done it in the other companies I've been a part of starting and had people like Deborah participate in, and when you have partners, but it's like you've got to find a way to balance your life, and balance, for me, my other entrepreneurial endeavors and businesses, and then on top of that, remain organized, go back, make sure you didn't miss anyone. Like, I don't want to forget to email someone a calendar reminder, or forget to email them a post-recording notes, or forget to something. Like, I have done it. I forgot to put one person on the calendar reminder, and they showed up for the podcast and called me, and I'm not even near the studio. And they're like, oh, are we doing the podcast today? I'm like, oh, what? Whoops. And
right.
and I'm like, okay, can we reschedule? And he's like, well, and I mean, the good news is entrepreneurs are understanding about all of it. He's like, I totally was in a rush today, so I was 15 minutes late anyway, and then I didn't see you on, so I called, thought maybe I missed you, but I'm really busy today, so let's reschedule it anyway. So, I mean, everyone's so understanding. If you've been in business and been an entrepreneur, I feel like it gives you a level of gratitude towards everything and level of understanding where you're not a bitter person when people make mistakes as much. You're like, okay, like this is human nature, especially as an entrepreneur, because we're literally throwing every ball in the air at any given moment, and sometimes one drops and we don't even notice it drops. So.
Right. And people understand too. And what I've gotten in my head is like, if they don't understand, and if you're as apologetic as ever, and even if, if they can't get it, then it's not worth it. If they can't understand that things happen, then
I think you just said a really key thing there, though, Lauren, is that you said if you apologize. It's amazing. Some people just, don't take ownership. But I think when you own stuff, people are like, yeah, I get it, right? But I think that's a key element, is really being like, hey, I'm a human and life got crazy and whatever. And they're like, okay, they're much more willing to forgive when it's relatable.
Yeah, and we talk about this actually.
And it's hard to take ownership, though.
Yeah, and
it's a hard thing.
And we talk about it on a Motivational Monday, actually, and I want to recap it just because I think we're on a point is, if someone comes to me and, we have a problem, whether it's an employee or a vendor or a customer, and they don't take responsibility for it, like then I have two problems. I have the problem itself, and then I have the problem with that. How am I going to deal with a person that is never going to fix the problem or take the responsibility to fix it on their end? And so that's the difficult part as someone that's been in business or as an entrepreneur, is we don't have to create the two problems. Can't we just focus on fixing the thing that went wrong in the first place? But when we're not honest about it and we don't take responsibility for it, we're actually creating another problem, which is how can we really fix it if we're not going to really look at what caused the problem? And so it's hard. And I didn't mean to interrupt, and I apologize, but I think it's so important because we're on a really good topic here. And I wanted to let you talk about it, Lauren, because I'm sure you experienced that as well, where, it's one thing as having customers and you got to sort of, the customer is always right. But then a customer comes to you with a problem and you're, no matter how many times they're right, the problem's never going to get fixed because they're never going to take responsibility for the part that's their fault. And so you get...
Well, then after a while, you have to stop.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do. And as long as you know, or as long as I know I've done everything I can do, then I can go to bed and put my head on a pillow.
Yeah, for sure.
We make mistakes all the time. Look, there's stuff going on all the time.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think it's so important that we understand, and entrepreneurs get used to this. I think people in the world that don't have that entrepreneurial life and you have stuff flying at you, it becomes stressful. But there's this weird sense as entrepreneurs where we're able to survive live and really excel or whatever, or benefit really in moments of chaos. Like entrepreneurial life, when you're really in the trenches, sometimes there's so much, for lack of a better term, shit being thrown at you, that you learn how to survive in it and really just excel in it and benefit from it and how to divert it. If I could go back to the days where I first started, things would get stressful, and even the podcast, the first week was so stressful for me. I was trying to perfect everything and trying to make sure, and then all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I'm talking about being authentic and vulnerable, and I'm talking about being real. I'm just going to let it go and let it be real. Why get caught up in the details and spend so many hours doing it? I want it to be great, don't get me wrong, but greatness is also in just letting it be what it is and then pivoting as it goes and learning as you go. Because if we hold on to it and we don't deal with the chaos, you're just going to continue to have chaos and stress. But being able to have a thicker skin, and a softer inside where we're grateful for what we have, but a thicker skin where we can take more, deal with more in life. Because I'm sure you've had it, entrepreneur. Sometimes you get an email at 1 o'clock in your morning and you're like, what is going on right now? And next thing you know, 3 hours of your life are gone and it's 4 a.m. in the morning because you're having to deal with something at night, or you can't sleep because you're trying to figure out how to solve this problem. And it's kind of crazy, right? It doesn't matter whether it's 7 a.m. in the morning or 5 p.m. at night. You can't control other people. And so because you can't control anyone else, let alone the circumstances of the world, you're always dealing with stuff as an entrepreneur. And it's sort of magnified, in my opinion. But if I look at it, someone says to me, oh my gosh, how do you do all that? Or how do you keep track of it or whatever? It's like second nature to me. I don't even notice. I put my head down when I have time and I excel through it. And if I need to be distracted or something happens, okay, I set this down. I know where I am. I move on to the next thing. I deal with the problem, deal with it, and then I'm back at it. And there's this weird compartmentalizing that happens as entrepreneurs, I think, because we're moving so fast, yet trying to slow down. But you have to deal with things in always a chaotic situation, in my opinion. But I wouldn't even, all these years later, 18 years later, I wouldn't even call it chaos to me. Actually, it's probably been more than that since I was...
Normality.
Yeah.
It's normality.
Yeah. I mean, I've always dealt with it, whether I was mowing lawns as a kid and going out and hunting down people to mow lawns or running fruit stands. It's never not been a part of my life as an entrepreneur or owning my own businesses. And I started pretty young with the help of my parents, for sure, but everything can go wrong. Like even then, like, oh, great, I did something stupid. I ran the diesel tractor out of diesel fuel. How did I do that? Well, I was a stupid kid and not paying attention and too busy listening to my Walkman at the time, which were awesome, by the way. The yellow Sony Walkman back in the day. But it's, it's that type of thing that we do as entrepreneurs that it's like, there's this video I saw, and the audience is going to have to excuse me, but it's literally this monkey like scooping its own poop and throwing it at the other one. But that's like, and the other monkey's not doing anything or participating. It's like, why are you doing this to me? But that's sort of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Like, it's like shit's being thrown at you and you don't know why. It just keeps happening, but you have to deal with it. You have to remain calm like the other monkey is. And you're sort of like, okay, well, how do I address this situation to get it to stop? Because I can't stop him from doing it, in any nonviolent way. So it's like, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but... Deborah's like, oh my gosh, you just talked about monkey flinging poop on the air.
Right, but you know what? My mom said that back in the day when she was in going to therapy, she said that her therapist said life is a shit sandwich. It all depends on how big of a bite you take out of it.
There you go, right? I think the truth of the matter is when you look at all of the stress that happens in life, I mean, I was just talking about this the other day, that I always wish that I could have in that exact moment the presence of mind that's going to come in about 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever when I calm down, but be able to apply that in the actual moment. And really in those moments when all the stuff is hitting the fan, that's really where growth happens. But at the time, it sure can be stressful. And but I think the ability to pivot and whatnot sure is a definite need amongst any entrepreneur.
So now,
well, you have to. I mean, it's hard. It's hard, and where to put your energy. picking and choosing very properly, like, dealing with a customer that's not very happy, you could only try so much. And then after you try so much, you as an individual have to stop because nothing's going to make it better.
Right.
So all I have to do is know that when I wake up every day that I'm going to try to be the best person I can possibly be with the elements that are around me. Of course I fail at some things are not going to be perfect and I'm going to fail at it.
Right.
But I'm going to do the best I can do.
And when you have demands coming from two different ways, you can't be 100% at both, right? So that's where, like, you have to put on your CEO cap and be like, okay, prioritize what's the most important right now.
Right. Yes. Right there, right now. And then also, being mindful of how to react or how to respond. Do you let it blow off? And when you were saying, if you could wait those 10 minutes and respond, I wish I could do that all the time.
Right.
But that's the thing about, I try so hard in dealing with, if the biscuit's not being made proper, we have to reevaluate something. How do I tell someone? Because I don't want them to get upset. But it's important. It may not be as important to them, but it's important to me. And it's important to the customer.
Right. But that just shows your care and all of that stuff, right? I mean, the fact that you care so much that you're like, God, I want to do it right, that's huge. I mean, that's part of why you're successful. But no one's going to care as much as I do. Exactly.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've learned, like, over the years, the very, very hard way, because I tend to do things over and over again before I learn my lesson, but it's that I want to respond, and sometimes I get righteous from an email or someone or on the phone or whatever. And usually I'll write an email and I'll get it all out and then I'll let it sit there for about 10, 20 minutes and then look at it again and then redo it and look at it a different way because I get the initial frustration out on the page. And it's a little bit of a waste of time in my opinion, but I haven't figured out another way to do it that keeps me focused in the task at hand. And then I'm like, okay, I got out the frustration. Now let me really write an email that's constructive. That'll help me tomorrow. That'll help the business tomorrow. That'll help the people around me. And how can I learn from it and grow from it? And how can I help someone else succeed as well? And so it's an interesting thing, but the problem is sometimes you forget to actually send the email when it sits there for 10 minutes because something else comes up. And that's the downfall of it, really. But I don't know.
Or maybe that's a good part to not send the email.
Well, not that email. Send an email in general or as a response. I didn't mean that email. But.
Well, that's out today. I started writing. There's 2 emails I have to send out, and I'm like, "Oh, it's 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. I got to do this now." And I'm glad I was forced to put it down,
right?
Because I want to use words. I don't need to go that direction. It shouldn't have to go in a certain direction. So it's going to give me time to reevaluate my words and what I need to say. I mean, it's hard. I mean, we're all human. And we as people forget that sometimes, that everyone is human. And we all make mistakes. And we all have to have patience with each other. And just, my biggest thing is being humble and remembering where you came from. We all came from somewhere.
Right.
And I didn't go to school for, to be an entrepreneur, which is amazing that they offer that in school.
Right.
Which I think, the world is seeing that there's so many more people with amazing ideas and want to help push it forward because, but it's just hard. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting too. I mean, small business is huge for just the entire global world, right? Like if you look at small entrepreneurs, especially in the United States, I mean, it's a huge percentage of all new jobs that happen. And so it's that creativity, it's that ingenuity, it's the drive to like have something special and unique. And obviously that works for people because that's, a lot of people want to work for them if they're not actually the entrepreneur themselves. But it's definitely the engine, largely in the United States.
Yes. And I love the fact that's like, my employees that I have, a lot of them, like 3 of them came from being customers at my farmer's market.
That's so great. I mean, really, and that's a huge, I think that's a great story too. Like when you introduce them to people to say, hey, yeah, this is so-and-so and they work for me. And, I met them because their dog actually eats my treats and stuff. I mean, that's such a great, link between your product that someone and their dog love it so much that they want to represent your company. It's not just someone who applied for a job and, had the better resume or whatnot. This is someone who truly believes in you and your product. And I think that's a really cool thing for sure.
And that's the person I want on my team.
Yeah.
I had a friend,
right.
Actually, my friend who I've known since elementary school, she had a store in California. And so she was my first customer ever, which was amazing. And then she was right in Studio City. And so Jeffrey Dean Morgan would come into her store and buy our dog biscuits. And we were making one with cheese and garlic. And he loves the cheese and garlic. He said he would sit there and put some cream cheese on it and eat it himself. So it's like, and now she's here helping me. I know it's amazing. It's crazy, but she's the type of person that I'm honored that she's, helping me create what I'm doing.
Right.
I do have to admit, I do that as well with Brutus, and Deborah does too. One for me, one for you.
Oh, but I not with his dog treats.
No, not with dog treats.
He also likes the Parmesan cheese Cheez-Its.
Oh,
or the white cheddar
Cheez-Its.
Cheez-Its. I sometimes snack on those, and he's a big fan.
Well, I promise you, when I send you your box,
right,
you'll be able to say, for you and one for me.
I might have to venture out and try it. I'm going to take that as a dare.
And Brutus is our American Cocker Spaniel, so he's going to make his debut picture with your dog biscuits on our podcast Instagram as well, because I think it's so awesome.
Famous.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
All right,
that's awesome. Nice.
So tell us a little bit, Lauren, what are your favorite things to do? Because we talked about the things you don't like doing, but what are your absolute favorite things about what you do in your job, I guess, in your business?
Well, one is my farmers markets, like I said before. That's my reward. Seeing everyone and seeing all the happy dogs. That's my favorite. Having my mom come in and being proud is a favorite thing of mine. I love to go and, this business is just everything about it. Going to events are my favorite things, when it comes down to it. And also, going to events, sharing the treats, and also supporting our local non-kill shelters is a wonderful thing that makes my heart very happy. We support Paws Atlanta. And
I love that. That's so cool that you have a give back.
Yeah.
Big fan of that.
So they were our third recipient of the grant from my nonprofit, but Paws Atlanta is my favorite no-kill shelter here in Atlanta, and I do events, and I'll whenever, God forbid, we burn biscuits, which does happen.
Right.
You cook them a little too long. They may be fine. Someone may look, oh, those fine. They're not to my standard.
Right.
They're not going to hurt your dog, but those all were going to Paws Atlanta. So they are always getting biscuits because there's so many dogs in there that need yummy stuff. And so what I did also is I love being able to give back in that way. And when dogs get adopted, I give them, I've been doing, I give biscuits to give to the person when they're adopted.
You give them a little doggy bag?
They get a doggy bag. So that's the fun thing, is being able to give. Because I am a giver. I've been a giver all my life. I've been told I'd give too much, but I can't help it.
Right.
And that's just who I am. And it makes me happy because if I can't support you with cash, with donations, I can always give you dog biscuits. And I'm going to make some dog and some human very happy getting them.
And I love that because I think people see entrepreneurs in the main world as these people, they go out, they build these big businesses and they make all this money. But what people don't also see is that most entrepreneurs, I mean, even if you look at Bill Gates and whatever and how much billions of dollars he has, most entrepreneurs are actually really giving human beings. They actually really want to go out there and help people and give back. And I got to say, I didn't realize how much people and entrepreneurs were not only wanting to make money, but giving back. We've had people whose brands go directly to planting trees or fighting unknown diseases and running a mac and cheese 5K we've had, and like you and the Paws, and we just had a food truck on here, and his wife came on, and they do Dumb Friends League, which is the dog thing. And so all these people, like all these entrepreneurs, every single one that comes on the episode is doing something in the nonprofit world. So I think it's so incredible that as entrepreneurs, one is we get to do what we want. So we get to build a business, and most of the time it's successful if we really set our minds to it, because failure is not an option. But then the other part is that we get to do the other part that we want, which is give back. In my case, in Deborah's case, part of our give back is the podcast. We want to tell everyone stories, and we want to say, we've been successful entrepreneurs. Let's help other entrepreneurs get their voice out there and tell their stories. And not only that, Deborah and I have become so curious, and we're like, oh my gosh, that is so helpful to know. We thought that we were the only ones going through that. Or, there are other people out there that care about doing the right thing like we do for the environment and for animals and for whatever your cause is. And it's so amazing. And
I wonder if the large percentage of entrepreneurs who give back, and not that other people don't either. And, I'm sure there's a lot of generous people on the planet, but I wonder if the component though is, as an entrepreneur, we don't see things as finite. We see it as though there's a whole slate and we can kind of write our own story. We can pivot in different directions. We can add new product lines. We can add new companies. We can go lots of different directions. So I wonder if that concept of things aren't finite. It's not just like we have our paycheck, period. It's like it's open. It's open to what we could do. I wonder if that's part of what plays into some of the generosity that we see with so many of these entrepreneurs who've come on the show.
I think so, because you to pick and choose.
Right.
I mean, and if I'm going to give you, if I'm going to gift you something, I'm going to believe in what you're doing. Right. It has to hit somewhere in me. Like last night, I went to my high school, and one of my employees does color guard, and I sponsor their color guard this year.
That's cool.
What is the color guard? Just because I don't know.
I'm sorry?
Did you say the color guard?
Color guard, yes. They dance and they spin rifles and fling flags and do interpretive dancing, and it's amazing. But so I gave twofold. I gave back to my high school, and I gave back to my employee to support her team.
That's so fun. And I'm sure that meant a ton to her, right? Because you're vested in her life. And yes, she gets her paycheck and whatnot, but it goes beyond just the working environment to you going into her life. And that's a really, I think that makes you a great employer.
Oh, thank you. And Karen, you don't have to, but I do.
Right.
I care.
It's a choice.
People, I want to help. You're helping me, and I wouldn't have you part of my team if I didn't care about you.
Right.
And doing what you do. So, and then giving back to, I wish I had lots of money to give, but if I can just do the dog biscuits, it satisfies my soul right there. Because there are so many dogs that are in need. And I never thought, when I first started this business, I said, I want to be your dog biscuit of choice. And then it came, I never thought that I would be making a difference making a dog biscuit. And I have.
Cool. That's a great story though, right? And that's so fun for you to look back on and see that and be so, it's something you wanted to do and you're actually doing it. It's amazing.
Right. It is amazing. If you knew little me and you see me now, I'm two different people.
Yeah, actually.
And I wouldn't.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change a damn thing.
That's awesome.
Well, I love it. And I think, and we're starting to see this also, and there's a trend here, and with Deborah and I doing so many podcasts, is that with the world flattening by the internet and things traveling so quickly, there's so many more entrepreneurs popping up in so many different industries and learning the lessons that we all learn, plus knowing and getting the gratitude of life and the hard knocks that make us appreciate life so much more and have so much gratitude for other people and for the world around us. I feel like there's a change going on, and that we as human beings, as entrepreneurs, become more and more, and there's less and less huge business because of it, and we start taking chunks out of it, like you're doing with the dog biscuits. You have your own version in the huge dog biscuit company that was probably used to be dominated by a few brands, that we are changing the world. And so I love that you're saying that your dog biscuit company is changing the world, because that's actually what we're doing as entrepreneurs. We're passing that along to our employees, like you said, by supporting them in their lives like you did in your high school and what she was passionate about. So I love that. But my question is this for you. Have you always been a very social human being? Because you seem like you go out there and you meet people and you've got this great energy, Lauren. Have you always been social?
I have. But what's crazy, I'm also an introvert, but people don't believe.
I know. I tell that to Deborah all the time. I'm actually an introvert. She's like, that is impossible.
Right. But people don't see it, but you can.
Right.
But yeah, I am. And when you live in a city as long as you have, living in Atlanta, everyone says it's so big. It's really not. It's 6 degrees of separation. Everyone knows everyone, but everyone helps everyone. And the one thing is I'm able to connect people as well. And then it goes back to when my mother said, I'm just like my grandfather. He never met a stranger. Greet him. And I'm like, greet him with a smile. Greet everyone with a smile. So I just want to show goodness. And depending on the social situation is where I turn to be that introvert. But I love being out and having a good time and smiling and laughing and just being. I love living.
And I love that too, because you never know, like your smile and you could change someone's life just like that, or a moment, or spare them from something because you've changed them out of a bad mood by just having a smile on your face and going up and greeting them in a great mood. It's the opportunity to change someone's day. How amazing is that?
Well, we never know what anyone's experiencing. The struggle to get out of bed. Look, I'm a person that lives with depression, and I've had to work very hard. And people are like, you're depressed? I'm like, yeah, but people don't see it.
Yeah, it's not something you can see.
But there's a lot of balance that goes into what I do, and sometimes it is a big struggle for me to get out of bed and to get it going and get that kickstand going on that on your day. But once I do, I rock it out. But it's we all have our little demons that are inside of us that try to stop us from being our best.
Yeah.
But being able to overcome them and being successful at the same time is huge. And that's one thing. As I'm talking, it's just like resonating more and going, you're right. I see this change in me. It's hard.
No, and if you were on stage right now, I'd ask you to drop the mic and walk off the stage, because that was so amazing as we wrap up this episode. I really just so heartfelt. So the last thing, Lauren, that I want you to do before we wrap things up is just, again, tell people where they can get the dog biscuits, but please also tell everyone about the nonprofits you have. And are supporting, because I want everyone to hear it on the episode as part of it, because I think it's such a great cause.
Okay, so if I could drop the mic, I would. Boom. So thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. That meant a lot. But it's, it is just, I don't know. So you can buy our dog biscuits at BigDaddyBiscuits.com. We ship all over the United States and in Europe as well. You can support my nonprofit at it's Oktoberfest and EAV, and what we do is we're responsible pet ownership, and so we try to it's about adopt, not shopping dogs. So we have dog like 4 or 5 different rescues, and we typically adopt out 4 to 5 dogs every time we're there. And we have small businesses that show up as well, and food trucks. And then my nonprofit that Big Daddy Biscuits supports, Paws Atlanta. They're the largest non-kill shelter here in Georgia. And we like to go over there and walk the dogs if we can, but we give dog biscuits to the dogs that get adopted. We're about to do one of their walk and wag walks. I think it's May 11th. We'll be there handing out dog biscuits to everybody. I don't know. If you have a dog, we hope you try our treats, because you can eat them too.
I love that. I love the one for me, one for you for the dog biscuits. And I will always remember the story of the guy putting cream cheese on his dog biscuit and eating it and then giving one to his dog. The cheddar and chive, was it?
Garlic.
Cheddar and garlic.
Yeah, it was a cheese and garlic biscuit. It was Jeffrey Dean Morgan was the man. So it was awesome.
And
right?
So, Lauren,
Right.
I love what you're doing, and I love your story, and we'd love to get you back on in a few months and continue to tell your story and where your business goes. So I appreciate you being on. And all the audience, please share what we're doing here and share Lauren's story and share this episode. And if you have a dog, try the dog biscuits. I think it's amazing. And I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm the host. This is Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs. Thank you, Deborah, for being my co-host always. And everyone have a nice day, and please share and pass on the love that we're giving through this podcast.